and welcome to another episode of Coast Connections. We're here this time to give you a real jolt of joy. We've got a fantastic guest tonight who will just raise your spirits and your endorphins as well. Judy Millar is an international award-winning humorist, author. She's a self-proclaimed klutz. She's a plick-and-chucker, even a chicken-plucker, and a stalker of politicians as well. And we're going to unpack some of that tonight as we talk with Judy Millar. Welcome to Coast Connections.
Thank you for having me, Liz.
You silly gal. You've been up to a lot of mischief over your lifetime.
Oh, there have been a few stories. That's true. I can't deny it.
And the stories that you have out now are in the book that we're showcasing today. Other than that, I'm fine. And I believe this is your second or third book?
It's my second book.
Yeah.
Yes, I did another one, Beaver Bluff, the Librarian Stories. But it's back in 2012, so it's kind of ancient history for me now. It was humorous short fiction, whereas this is essays and funny stories about my life and silly poems and lots of fun all gathered together.
Yeah. And I'll also say that you are a recipient of the Stephen Leacock Award for Humor, one of Canada's oldest literary awards, awarded to people who make us laugh.
Well, I'll clarify a little bit. That was a Leacock Award for a limerick. Mm-hmm. They used to give awards for limericks, which was right up my alley because I love crafting tight little pieces of lyrics and limericks and so on. Now they only give the Leacock Medal, or they only ever gave the Leacock Medal for a full-length piece of work. But back in the limerick days, yes, I managed to snag a second prize in a limerick, and that was lots of fun, yeah.
And we have a photo of you in Orillia, Ontario, in front of Stephen Leacock's estate, his beautiful home there.
That's right,
and they had you there for
a reading. All the authors of the limericks were able to read that day, and so that was my time in front of the Leacock House, which was special for me.
That's very special and very unique. That award's been around for 77 years.
That's right.
And the only year they didn't give it out was 1959 because they didn't have any submissions that met the bar. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yours met the bar.
Well,
along with luminaries like Pierre Burton, Farley Mowat, Rick Mercer, Stuart McLean. So you're in good company, Judy. What got you started as a humorist and a storyteller, comedic storyteller? You say you're a self-declared klutz. Tell us a little bit about that.
I was always a klutz as a child, and but you learn, though, that you can fit in a little bit if you exploit the humor of that, instead of being just self-conscious about it.
Yes.
In school, we all try to fit in, and the cool kids to me were always the ones in the sports teams and the girls playing basketball, and I was hopeless. So, but I found that I could make people laugh, and that would allow you to fit in, So I did some of that. And also, I came from a creative family, and my brother's also creative and so on. So I went forward trying to use the humor. And even in my business career, which is what I did, I was an insurance communicator and publications editor and so on. But I still had the most fun trying to make my colleagues laugh. That was always my thing. And my brother was a musician, so I started writing song lyrics with Ron Hiller, who performs as Ronno. And it just all kind of spiraled and grew.
And spiraled and grew it did. You wrote lyrics to over 100 songs that were on 10 different albums. And this was like children's entertainment, right?
That's right.
And
right. My brother is a children's entertainer. He performs as Ronno in Ontario. Mm-hmm. And I would go, when we were trying to launch the kids' music back in the 90s, you want some little show around it. So I became his puppeteer behind the stage, and I manufactured from a pattern to cheap two sheep puppets, Lammy and Lambo, a white sheep and a black sheep. And I would be behind the stage, and he's the singer-songwriter, and he would present the music. So we went into schools in Ontario, and we we performed at the resorts in Muskoka and so on. And I would, if you think performing just normally is hard, try performing with two sheep puppets on your arm. These are heavy with their heads and everything, and one has to talk to another, and you're outside a resort in Muskoka, and you're performing, and it's hot and whatever, and you're throwing your voice from one sheep puppet to another. It was the hardest work I ever did. Well, you know, if you're painting a ceiling, how tired your arms get. So we had to build a little ledge in the puppet show for me. But it made the kids' music take off, and it got picked up in the United States, which, and it's still used, some of that music. I still get royalties, and it's performed in schools in the United States for fitness classes and so on. So doing the kids' music together with Ronald was a lot of fun. Wrote a lot of lyrics, yeah.
How lovely to collaborate like that with your brother, and to have that out into the world for people to enjoy. And you know, that's a beautiful gift there, Judy. Yeah.
We did that even when we were kids in bed. Instead of going to sleep, we were yelling out lyrics and jokes to each other. So it just kind of took on a life of its own. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
That's fantastic. And you won was it a Children's Laureate award?
A laureate for children for a serious poem called "The Party." And then that award was given in Monterrey, Mexico. So I was able to travel down to Monterrey to receive that. That was kind of a thrill back in '93. Yeah. We're going back on some of this stuff, but why not?
We're in the rear view mirror.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And when I referred to stalking politicians, I think Kim Campbell, this was your encounter with her when you got that award.
She wrote, I joke that she was prime minister for 10 minutes, but thank you, because she managed to sign a letter of congratulations from the prime minister's office, which was cool.
That's lovely.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah,
that's really nice. And going back to your klutzy high school days, you were touring the House of Commons, and there was an incident.
Oh. That wasn't even high school. That was my grade 8 trip. And we went, they took us to the Parliament buildings, and I somehow became separated from my group, and then was scrambling up the stairs trying to catch up with my group. And John Diefenbaker, the Conservative Prime Minister, was coming down the stairs with his entourage. It's not like these days, I guess they would have security all over, but no, me running up the stairs actually bumped John Diefenbaker, and he stumbled and fell against the rail and then continued on. So I didn't even know who I'd bumped, but people told me later, and the teacher, that I'd bumped the Prime Minister. So it knocked him off his level for a little bit, but
you almost overthrew the Conservative
Party.
The
Conservative Party right there. My job is done. Anyway, yeah.
Deef the Chief, they used to call him.
The Chief.
Yeah.
He was no match for me, though.
And then years later, you had another encounter with the Prime Minister, Pierre Elliott Trudeau.
Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Justin's dad. That was in '68, and that was in Kitchener, Ontario. And Pierre Trudeau, I think, had just become Prime Minister, and he was invited to speak to the Chamber of Commerce, and it was ladies' night. That's how it was in those days, right? They assumed it would be only male businessmen, and they could bring their wives that night, and my mother wasn't able to go. So my father took me as his guest, and so I would be 18 years old, I think, and all the other wives would be, I don't know, 40, 50, whatever, but it was Trudeau-mania. And so all the women were flocking around the head table where Pierre Trudeau was seated, trying to get his autograph. Well, I think Pierre Trudeau always had an eye for the ladies, right? And I was the youngest one there. And so I approached with my program trying to get an autograph as well. And I dared to use my high school French and to say to him, "Bon appétit." And he liked that very much, and he decided to sign my program, and then very gallantly removed the rose from his lapel, which, he always wore a rose every time, and handed it across the table to me. Well, I was smitten, and everyone else was so jealous, and I got the rose and I got the autograph. And then years later, I wrote about this, and I said I'd been pinned to the PM, and really I wasn't pinned. I carried the rose back and I kept it until every petal fell off, you can be sure. But anyway, I would joke that he should have married me instead of Margaret Sinclair. I wouldn't have been so flighty and all, but he didn't, and that story went a different direction. Otherwise, maybe I'd be Justin's mom, right? Yeah.
Would you have run off with the Rolling Stones, though?
Oh, I don't know, maybe. No, but that was really, I've still got the program, and that's pretty special thing for me with the autograph on it, yeah.
And of course, for those who are younger than we are, Pierre Trudeau always wore a red rose on his lapel. That was his signature.
It was his signature,
yeah.
But he handed one to me. And then,
so that was a big deal.
It was a big deal. And then in that essay, which I wrote later about the thing, I joked that Stephen Harper and Mulcair, they could maybe get a few more votes if they used some of Pierre's gallantry and panache, because so few of our politicians really have that, He could get into it with a sparkle and some gesture, and he certainly did.
Yeah. Even with the fuddle-duddle.
Even with that, he had his style and his cape and the whole thing.
Swagger.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of swagger, you're sitting in Chapters Starbucks in Nanaimo a little while ago, and several years back. And tell us who you met in there.
You would think I was stalking these people, but instead I think they were stalking me because they just turned up. No, I used to write in Starbucks in Chapters and in front of the fireplace, and I'm just deeply into my work. And I looked up, and in the other chair, as close as you are, is sitting Jack Layton, the NDP politician. And it was just in the election before the Orange Wave took place, and in another chair a woman, and the two of them are talking, and it turned out he was there with his sister. And there wasn't even, maybe there was security off in the shelves, I don't know, but I didn't see anyone else around. But I thought, that must be Jack Layton. So I said, do you think I could have an autograph? And his sister took a shot with us, so I've got a picture of that as well. So, in my stalking of politicians, I've accumulated several, right? Yeah.
And then you found your doppelganger.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And again, or she found me, perhaps, because I was at VIU, and I guess Elizabeth May had been invited to speak there, and so I trundled forward and asked for the photo op, and people later said, "Oh, you two look like sisters." And yeah.
Uncannily, you do.
We kind of do look the same. Now my hair is white since the pandemic. Maybe we don't look as much the same now, but we did quite then. Yeah.
I'm sure her hair's gotten a lot whiter too with all the political wrangling that she's done.
No doubt. Yeah.
Let's just hop back to that limerick that won the Leacock Award.
Oh, right.
Would you like to read that for us or say it?
Sure. Yeah. I just wrote it down in case I did. All right, here we go. I've brought home a nice friend for dinner. It's the new guy from work, the beginner. Put down that knife, said the cannibal's wife. At this rate, you'll never get thinner. That was fun. Yeah. I love limericks. I love doing that. I like the constraint of it, only so many lines, only so many syllables, and can you really get the joke in? It's so much fun.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
And you won some prize money for that, which amounted to...
That was $500.
Yeah. So how much a word was that? Did you... $16 a word or something?
Yes, it turns out that my career's been all downhill since then, because $16 a word for a writer, it turns out to be a lot of money if you would work long, as I don't do, but
totally.
Yeah, $16 a word. It's been all downhill since then. Oh well.
Now, you're also a performer. You go out and tell your stories in person in front of audiences and stuff. How do you deal with, have you ever had an epic bomb, epic fail, hecklers? Anything that like earth swallow me now moment?
No, it hasn't been like that. It's not like stand-up. I think stand-up gets edgy and people, are rowdier in the crowd and it's later and they've been drinking and all that. This is humorous storytelling. The audience is kind of wants to hear your story. It's not like a joke, 3 jokes squeezed into the first minute and some heckler shouts from the back. So it hasn't been like that. What I find does happen is that in storytelling, sometimes you might blank. You might have a moment where the words just don't come to you. That's a bit more challenging. Yeah. But no, the audience in humorous storytelling is generally on your side and loving it. At least my audiences have been. Yeah.
And any faux pas, they usually are right in there with you.
Yeah, because most people themselves think, well, boy, I wouldn't maybe want to get up and do that. So they're rooting for you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank goodness, right?
Thank goodness,
yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
I'd like you to read another one from your book, Judy, the one about finding my cell phone. Oh. This is something that is so relatable. We've all been there, but you've captured it perfectly.
Okay, well, I'll read one of those. Yeah, in the book, I had to decide how to group all this material, because I had stories, true stories about my life, and I had essays, and I had poems, and so on. So I thought, well, it all has to do with life. So some of it is to do with our human pet peeves and imperfections and all that. And then there was another thing about modern life and all the frustrations of that. And one of the frustrations of modern life, obviously, is all this paraphernalia that we have with our phones and so on. So technology, right. So I wrote this, let's see if I can find it here. This happens at my house for sure. I don't know if it happens at yours, but yes. This is called On Searching for Your Mobile Phone. You check on the counter and look in your purse. You feel down the sofa and take time to curse. You clear off the desktop and look in the drawer. You pull back the bedspread and study the floor. You're starting to freak out. It couldn't be far. If it's not in the house, it must be in the car. You check down the car seat, still can't find a thing. You call from a landline and feel your butt ring. True, has happened. I don't know to you, but to me.
Very true.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
If anybody ever told you that, you'd find your phone by your ringing butt, 40 years ago, you'd wonder what planet you're on.
My husband actually has an old cell phone with Find Your Phone to look for his other phone because it's become such a problem. So yeah, I guess we're not alone.
No, we're not.
No.
And your husband has a very good sense of humor too, and you've parodied him in some of your stories as well.
Well, he's a tolerant guy because I do pick on him, but he kind of likes it because it's sort of his 15 minutes of fame, Yeah. But there are quite a few Randy stories scattered throughout the book.
I like it.
Yeah.
Read to us the one about to your husband in the event of my death.
Right.
Which is
well, yes. With Randy, I've learned that you have to give very precise instructions. I've learned that, and I thought, well, maybe we got to even sort this out for the exit, should that come to that. So this is called To My Husband, to be read in the event that I predecease you. If you're reading this, I've predeceased you, which sucks for me, but I now release you. I declare herein you may marry again, but not too soon. So the question is, when? Certainly not within a year. I want to make that totally clear. If I've just been reduced to ashes and cinder, don't even think of going on Tinder. 18 months you could start your search. Maybe scope out a widow from our church. Definitely not Donna Dean, or you'd have to live on lean cuisine. You deserve to be a happy man, which you'd never be with Faye McCann or Brenda Burke. She's a real disaster. For better options, ask the pastor. If all else fails, get off the sofa. Join a bowling league or try out yoga. Wait, yoga ladies, they can flex, so they might give you better sex. No, that's where I must draw the line. The best sex must be yours and mine. So when it's time to get things rolling, skip the yoga, stick to bowling. A woman who throws strikes and spares and likes your jokes and really cares. Someone who's not too depressing. That sort of wife would have my blessing. And then I added a little PS. I mean it about the yoga. I will know.
You will haunt him.
I think he will. He's going to be nervous. And my entire community now knows this poem because I just did a book launch last Sunday. So all his neighbors will also be watching his every move.
Any yoga instructors in that group that have left the community?
There is a yoga class. You never, I know. But there are quite a few bowlers as well. So hopefully he can make the right move there.
You also in this book have a couple of really funny pieces about wearing masks. If historic figures like I think Hamlet and Lady Macbeth wore masks during a pandemic. Mm-hmm. Can you read those?
I'll have to find them. I didn't mark them. Let's just see, that would be in the historical section. I wrote quite a few, like I write for history publications that are followed by history buffs, but I still like to take a humorous poke. So I'm always looking for whatever Henry VIII might have posted on eHarmony or that sort of thing. But during the pandemic, I guess I wrote on how Shakespeare's characters would cope with wearing a mask, which I didn't think was too well. So you wanted Lady Macbeth, did you?
Yep.
Wear a mask for others' sake, so say the scolds. I'm not buying this whole milk of human kindness thing. Man up, people. Screw your courage to the sticking place. Although I do wear a sleep mask, but of late it's become kind of a hazard, what with my sleepwalking. Plus it's filthy. I scrubbed it. Out damned spot, I said, but that spot was stubborn. A sorry sight. Masks are a bloody nuisance.
There's also another section in there about if historical figures were on Zoom calls, what that would sound and look like. That is hilarious too.
Socrates and Plato and all these big, trying to figure out what they would do if they couldn't, your screen's not on.
That's right,
Confucius,
Get thee behind me.
Lots of fun. Lots of fun. And then the humorous stories that I tell in storytelling too. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a legacy project to try to pull some of them together, because I know audiences love the stories, particularly about me being a klutz and on the chicken line and so on, and how my jacket became caught in the conveyor belt and I'm being pulled along and I'm still trying to sort my chicken pieces and being pulled into the flash freezer and so on. I wanted to get them down in a book because I can't be everywhere and telling them, and so they're in there as well.
You've got your parka on in the flash freezer.
Well, that's right. The one side, the cold air is blowing off, so I had to wear the jacket. But the chicken pieces are cooked way up high in a cauldron and it's steaming hot over there. So of course I'm wearing my jacket and I'm doing my leg breast thigh deal, and then I'm trying to flap, and then the jacket thing got caught and I'm running in and oh my goodness, the things that happen, right?
You've given me a whole new appreciation for when I get chicken from the supermarket, what that people had to go through to get that to my table.
Well, not just for what you get from the supermarket now, but when I was telling that story the other day, a woman sent me a picture from the 1970 of a Swanson chicken dinner, and the triangle foil, you can picture you've got your peas there and a slice of whatever for dessert.
Yes.
And then in that triangle is a leg, breast, thigh.
Right.
Well, that's exactly what we had to sort. The pieces come out all jumbled together, and we had to sort as they went by very quickly, find leg, breast, thigh, and this is the whole motion I'm doing until I'm doing this, and then this is happening. So it was, yeah.
How long did you last on that job, Judy?
I actually stayed on that job. They kept me on it even after they had to panic stop the line, but actually they kept me on. And then the next year, these are summer jobs in university. The next year, they put me on the spot dog food line, and I ran the canning machine. And so it all worked out better than the electrical job, because I got fired from that for grounding myself. But I wasn't even really sure I'd been fired. He just said, Judy, we're not all equally suited to every job. And that was such a gentle way. It took me a minute or two to realize that I'd been fired, but then I moved on to the poultry, so it was all good.
You became the chief plucker.
Plucker.
That's on your resume as well.
That's right. I went from sorter to plucker. Yeah.
The title for this book, other than that, I'm Fine, what inspired that title?
Two things, I guess. One thing is, in my stories, I'm always carrying on about this happened and that happened, and you go through your list of things that happened, but other than that, I'm fine. So that felt good. And then the subtitle, Essays on Life and Other Inconveniences. But also, when I was looking for the end of life stories and the aging stories, I did a little scouring on the internet to see what sort of great obituaries and epitaphs people might have out there, and I shared a few of them. And one written by, on the tombstone of a fellow named Ronnie Mallon in Glasgow, Scotland. His tombstone, these are true, his tombstone actually reads, "I'm dead. Other than that, I'm fine." Which is so great. And so I thought, well, that has to be it, plus the guy's dead, so he's not going to charge you with plagiarism or anything. And I thought, other than that, I'm fine. His dad was a Catholic priest, and he was still willing to put that on the tombstone. Wow. So that's out there.
Unfortunately, our time has come to a very quick end here. I'm very, very sorry. But I've written you a limerick.
Oh, wow.
Because I thought, what better way to thank you for coming on today? So Judy Millar, I'm calling this Millar time. And I said, there once was a writer named Judy who spread humor and brought out the beauty of life's situations and humiliations. So laughter could blast your gray moody.
Well done. I've got a competitor. Aren't they fun? Writing limericks are great fun. Yeah.
And it's been great fun having you, Judy.
Well, thank you.
Just a pleasure to have you here. Just lighten the mood and get people, seeing the brighter sides of life.
Well, I hope they will, and I hope they might look for my book on Amazon or on my website or whatever. I'd love that.
And you're also available for performances as well.
I'm happy to read for groups that would enjoy a humorous reading, sure.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Judy. All the best to you and all your characters.
Thank you very much, Liz.
Thank you for joining us, and lighten up, find humor in every day. There's always something to laugh about and raise joy. And we'll see you next time on Coast Connections.